Werewolves don't exist ch.17. Tala's POV. I smirked and leaned over and whispered in Yuma's ear, "Watch this." I smirked and he looked at me in confusion. I sat Connor down and leaned to his level. "You see over there where Brazen, DeRay, and Ryan are?" I asked him. He nodded, looking so innocent. I grinned. "Good, can you do Sissy Tala a favor and run over there and look at the guys and tell them why won't you just get their numbers already, okay?" I asked him. He smirked. "Oh, this kid likes to be devious, doesn't he?" "Okay," squealed and ran over there. "We better go after him to make it look like an accident." I winked at Yuma. He looked a bit flustered, but then laughed as we walked the way Connor ran. As I walked over there, I heard, "Why won't you just get the pretty ladies' numbers, idiots," was all he said, and he ran back over towards us. The shocked looks on their faces made me laugh hysterically. "Did I do good, Sissy Tala?" he asked, wanting my approval. I ruffled his hair. "You did great, buddy," I said, picking him up and walking over to the guys with Yuma cracking up worse than I was the whole time. "I'm sorry," I said in between laughs. I saw a look of amusement from Ryan and Brazen, but DeRay looked pissed. Whoops. I ran and hid behind Yuma the best I could, considering I have a 3-year-old on my hip. "Help Yuma, DeRay knows. He's gonna crucify me," I said. I saw Connor giggle. Yuma chuckled. "Don't worry, he won't do anything. I can take him," he said. I moved out from behind Yuma. All of a sudden, the girl with the red hair attacked me. He is just the cutest thing, and believe me, I've seen a lot of cute things, like a monkey in a suit, a 6-year-old in a banana costume, an elephant with a hat on. "Oh crap, I'm rambling," she said, slowly backing off. Connor looked scared and I laughed so hard I thought I busted a gut. The exotic-looking girl looked at us and smiled. "He is adorable. Is he your guys?" she said, looking between Yuma and I. I sighed and went red. Why does everyone think that I said exasperated? Then the chick with the glasses came up. "Well, you two are walking around together, and even though he has blonde hair, he has his eyes, and some of your facial features," she said, all smarticle-like, pointing to Yuma, then me. I looked from Connor to Yuma a few times. Their eyes do look the same. I looked at Connor. I don't think he looks like me. "Well, we aren't even related," I said finally. Then I realized that we hadn't even introduced ourselves. "Oh, I'm really rude, aren't I? My name is Tala," I said, then looked at Connor. "Tell them your name," I said to him. He looked at them shyly. "I'm Connor," he said quietly. I heard some Audiobooks from the girls. I waited, then looked at Yuma and elbowed him in the gut. "What?" "Oh yeah, I'm Yuma," he said. "Gee, thanks Yuma, you seem really nice." The red-haired girl smirked. "I'm Mickey," pronounced Mookie. "The best person ever," she said. I heard a barely audible growl from Brazen. "Abo W." Then the exotic girl walked up and smiled. She seemed like the quiet one out of the group. "I'm Erica," she said happily, and I saw an overprotective look in DeRay's eyes. "DeRay." Oh, thank God, I thought he was going after me for a while there. So that leaves Ryan and Super Smarty. She walked up to me and stuck her hand out. "I'm Haley," she said. I stuck my hand out and shook it. "I don't know what it is, but you have an air of authority about you, so it only felt respectful to shake your hand," she explained. I stiffened and looked to Yuma and sent him a look that asked him really. Somehow I could tell his look told me something like just a bit. "Well, I guess that's cool," I shrugged. "So, did you guys get their numbers?" I winked. Ryan gave me a look. "Oh, don't look at me like that, Ryan, you know you want Haley's number," I said, rolling my eyes, "and DeRay wants Erica's and Brazen wants Mickey's," I said as the girls looked at me wide-eyed. "Aww, Tala, you ruined all the fun," Brazen complained. "Oh, hush, I'll make cookies when we get home to make up for your fun loss," I said, rolling my eyes again. Then I felt a presence near my ear. "Your eyes are going to get stuck like that if you don't stop," Yuma whispered. It sent chills all through my body, and it made my knees feel like jello. I glared at him playfully. He just shrugged. "You guys live together?" Erica asked. Well, Yuma, Connor, Ryan, my brother, 2 more boys, 2 other girls, and of course me." I smirked. DeRay and Brazen come and go as they please, I shrugged, then looked at Connor, who was on the verge of falling asleep. "You tired, little buddy?" I asked. He nodded. "When we get home, will you lay down with me? The monsters want to take me back," he said. He's afraid someone's going to take him back to that place. "Sure, I will," I said, patting his head. I looked to Yuma, who looked like he was in his own little world. "Hey, I don't know what you're dreaming about, but are you ready to go?" "Connor is falling asleep," I said as he snapped out of it, took one look at me, and blushed a bit. I wonder what he was thinking about. Then he nodded. Tell everyone else that we headed home and tell Bo and Alick if they spent a bunch of money on stupid stuff at Spencer's, I swear to God, they will be cleaning the floors in the house with a toothbrush. I said about to walk off, but then stopped and turned. Don't forget to get their numbers. I like them, I laughed as Yuma and I walked towards the exit to the car. Bo's POV. I watched Yuma and Tala with Connor on her hip walk away. They looked like the perfect family and I could tell by the pained look on Alick's face he knew to. Look at the man Candy here. Well, by guys, Adam winked, walking off. I laughed. I then noticed that everyone else had walked off but Amberlynn and I. I smiled at her. Want to go to Spencer's, I said, smirking evilly. She smiled, just like I did, of course. I think you and I are going to be as close as a cheese and milk ... Wait, those don't go together, do they? I said dumbly. She laughed and shrugged. Cheese and milk work. Haven't you ever watched Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends? She asked. My face lit up like Christmas Day. I deeply admire you, I said, bowing like a gentleman. She laughed. Why, thank you, sir, she said. Then we passed a kid's toy store. And what I saw in the window made me the happiest guy on earth. Holy shit, crayons! I yelled. Where? Amberlynn yelled right after me. Right there. I pointed in the window of the toy store where there was a 300 pack of crayons with about 5 coloring books. We both looked at each other at the same time. Let's get me, both said in unison. We ran into the toy store trying to beat each other to the aisle with crayons in it. The whole way we were being stared at and mothers scowled at us. But did we care? ... Of course not. Bo, oblivious to everything. I finally grabbed a box of crayons and a frickin' sweet animal coloring book. I'll share my crayons with you, I said to Amberlynn, and her face lit up. Really? Thanks, she said, hugging me. At that moment I felt a spark surge through my body and I froze, then loosened up so she wouldn't think anything was wrong. She smiled and grabbed a coloring book of her own, and we walked back to the checkout. I pulled out some money Alick had given me and paid the lady who was looking at us like we were retarded. She handed me the bag and gave a tight-lipped smile as Amberlynn and I walked out of the store laughing. Want to go get some coffee? I asked. She smiled. Heck, yeah. Oh gee, I think I'm falling fast for this girl. Yuma's POV. I can't believe I was daydreaming, but I was daydreaming of Tala and I and US actually starting a family. Geez, these thoughts aren't even normal for a 19-year-old boy. I sighed as I carried the bags out and seeing Connor doze off on Tala as we walked to the car. She really is going to be a great mom. A laugh suddenly snapped me out of it again. You sure daydream a lot, don't you? Well, just stick the bags in the trunk and we will just be on our way home, she smiled, buckling Connor into the back seat. I stuck the bags in the back and jumped in the driver's seat. She glared at me. I'm driving, she said. Shaish says who? I asked playfully. Me, duh. Who else is so important, she said. Ouch, that one hurt, I said. It was meant to, sweetie, she winked. I spaced out for a second, but gained it back. Get in the passenger's seat, I said. She crossed her arms and stomped. Not fair. She huffed, getting in the passenger's side. I chuckled and started the car as Tala checked on Connor for me to see her face soften into a smile. He must be asleep then. We were driving in silence and Tala just bursts. Oh crap, I have to work tonight, she said softly but urgently. Quick, what time is it? She asked. I checked my watch quickly. 3:30, I said. She sighed. Good, that gives me while to get ready. Oh, and we have a date tonight, don't we? She said, raising an eyebrow. The mention of it, and her face, made my heart stop. Yep, I said, swallowing the lump in my throat. I have no idea why finding your mate is like this. I had girls falling at my feet in high school, but I never even dated them. Something in me always told me not to, and I'm glad I followed my instinct, because she is perfect. Before I knew it, we were home and way too soon for my liking. She smiled at me and got out of the car as soon as I pulled up. She grabbed Connor carefully, and I watched her smile and kiss his forehead as he slept peacefully. I walked into the house following her, and she went upstairs to what I assumed to put Connor in bed. I was greeted by Chaman, who seemed to be getting bigger by the day. Hey buddy, I said, patting his head. He wagged his tail in happiness. He's sleeping like a baby, she smiled. He is a baby, I replied. She stuck her tongue out. Shut up, smartass, she said. I chuckled. So what do you want to do till I have to go to work, she asked. Then she got a smirk on her face. "Do you like Disney movies?" she asked. "Are you kidding? What man wouldn't? With all its dirty jokes kids never pick up on," I said proudly. She laughed. "I agree. So what one do you want to watch?" she asked. "You can pick from Alice in Wonderland, Lion King, or Lilo Stitch," she said. I thought for a second. "You can never go wrong with a guy on an acid trip," I said. She smiled. "Alice in Wonderland it is," she said, popping the tape into an old VCR. "Do they even make those anymore?" I asked. "Hey, Shem, I'm not sure," she answered back. We both sat on the couch side by side watching the plot that we both had seen a million times unfold. We got to the part when Alice in at the tea party, and I piped up. "I love the Mad Hatter," Tala said. "No way, the caterpillar is better," I disagreed. She looked at me wide-eyed. "Are you crazy? The Mad Hatter is mad," she said, making a crazy face. I chuckled a bit. "Exactly, at least the caterpillar knows what he's talking about," I argued back. "All the caterpillar does is sit and smoke his hookah all day," she said again. Then, all of a sudden, I heard someone's clear their throat. Then I noticed mine, and Tala's face was super close. I pulled back to see everyone standing there. How much of that did you hear?" Tala asked. "Smoking his hookah all day," Bo said, trying to imitate her. "I do not sound like that," she pouted. "You do," Bo argued back. "Do not." "What do you do to?" "I do not." "Do to." "Do not." "Where?" "Okay, stop, Tala. Shouldn't you go get ready for work?" I screamed, looking at her. She glanced at the clock, and I tried not to get caught up in her beauty again. "Oh, shiitake mushrooms, yeah," she yelled, running upstairs. I looked around, and everyone was smiling at me. Well, all except Alick, who was glaring at me. I sighed out loud. God save my soul from this woman. Tala's POV. "Oh crap. I'm gonna be late." I ran and looked into my closet. Ha. I threw on a black corset shirt that tied around the neck and a pair of dark wash skinny jeans. Then I put on a blue iron fist belt and a key necklace with a light blue heart gem in the middle of it. I put on my makeup and straightened my hair, and then put on a pair of black arm warmers that had the word "juicy up" on side. I looked in the mirror. I looked pretty good. It was my job to do that anyway, right? To not also sing good but look pleasing to the eye wink. I stuck my cell in my pocket and slipped on my blue leopard print heels. With one last check in the mirror, I was gone. I walked downstairs and everyone stared. "Damn girl, you look hot," Anne screamed. I laughed a thanks. "Are you gonna need my car, sweetie?" Adam said, then whispered in my ear, "I have some news to tell you when you get home." He giggled. I nodded, smiling. "Nah, I'll walk," I said. "If Connor wakes up and wants to talk to me, just call my cell and I'll talk to him," okay, said, as almost everyone nodded. Before I left, I looked Yuma's way. He looked like he hadn't even blinked since I came downstairs. I winked at him, and he turned a light shade of red. I ran out the door quickly after that. It only took me about 20 minutes to walk there. I walked in, and the smell of alcohol and smoke hit me. Sighing, I walked up to the bar and hit it 4 times really hard. "What the phew," I heard Tala. "Oh my God, DeRay and Brazen told me what happened. When did you come to?" I saw Gray run up and hug me. I giggled yesterday, and no way would I miss a chance to make some money. "Oh, and see you," I laughed as he chuckled. "Well, go up there and sing your heart out," he said, patting my back. I nodded and ran on stage to the microphone. "Hey guys, I see a couple of familiar faces. Remember me from last weekend?" I asked into the microphone with a charming smile. I got a bunch of whistles and screams. "Thanks, guys. I'm going to be singing for you guys a while." "Okay," I said, and in return I got more screams. I sung 4 or 5 songs, and each time everyone screamed for me. "Okay guys, this is my last song, and it's kind of slow, and I want to dedicate this to all the couples and their other half," I said, winking. Then the music to Demi Lovato's Catch Me started up. "Before I fall to fast. Kiss me quick. And but make it last." I started out, and then all of a sudden I spotted him, and I almost stopped singing. He smiled at me, and I winked at him. He grinned. The song ended, and I got the most screams I had all night, and I could specifically hear Yuma's out of them all. Thanks, guys. I'll be back tomorrow night. Now, if you'll excuse me, I got myself a hot date, I said, walking off stage, hearing wolf whistles. I walked confidently towards Yuma, hoping this would be everything I wanted it to be. Werewolves don't exist. ch.18. Tala's POV. I smiled at Yuma with my heart pounding so hard that I was surprised he couldn't hear it. You were amazing, he said, smiling like Prince Charming. Thanks, I giggled like a schoolgirl. Shit, stop, Tala, you can't let this guy frazzle you. Where are we going exactly? I asked him. I could be super cliché and tell you it's a surprise, but A, I've never been known to follow a crowd. We're going out for dinner, then to the park for the rest of the night. The fun stuff is for the second date. He winked at me. I blushed. Let's go Casanova, by Gray. I yelled, grabbing Yuma's arm. Can't blame me for trying, he shrugged, getting out of my grip and walking to the car with me following behind. I sat in the passenger's side and Yuma looked at me surprised. What, no fight, he asked. I smirked. You are the guy after all, I said. He just laughed. You are a fascinating person, you know that? He stated more than asked. I just looked ahead in satisfaction. We drove for a while listening to random songs on the radio until I couldn't take it anymore. Where are we going? I asked as politely as my nerves would let me. Just in place, I know it's right down here, he said. He could tell I was getting impatient. We pulled up to a nice-looking small restraint. I got out of the car and looked at the sign that read Passion e Cibo a Hashian and food. I looked at it a second longer. Italian, I questioned Yuma. He smiled. Yeah, you speak it? He asked. A bit, I said. It was the truth. I did dabble with Italian for a while, so I know a bit. Yuma smiled. I speak fluently. It's my heritage, he said, and I looked at him surprised. Really? I thought you were Native American, I said, amazed, and looked closely. He did have a bit of that Italian look to him. No matter how many times I tell your brother I'm Italian, he just can't get it through his thick skull, so I went along with it. He shrugged. That would have been nice to know from the start. I just huffed at him. Pronti a partire, amor mio? Ready to go, my love? He asked, and I blushed, understanding everything he said. It also sent shivers down my spine. Looks like I just found my new turn on wink wink. Ogni volta ci sono signor, whenever you are, sir, I replied, hooking my arm into his as he escorted me into the small charming restaurant. The place had dim lighting with a rose-red glow to it. Almost had a romantic Phantom of the Opera feel to it, and believe me, I love me some Phantom of the Opera. I looked ahead now to see a smiling woman to be about mid-20s smiling at us. Hello, do you have a reservation? She asked in an Italian accent. Sotto Francesca, it's under Francesca, Yuma said calmly. The women seemed to breathe a sigh of relief now that she knew she didn't have to try so hard to be understandable speaking English. She checked a book and smiled nicely to quest apart. Right this way, she said, as she led us to a two-chaired table with a white tablecloths draped over it and rose petals all over the table. Crazy, thanks, I said, smiling as she sat two menus down and nodded our way. El server sarà qui in un momento, your server will be here in a moment, and with that she left as Yuma and I sat down. Wow, what a beautiful place, I said in astonishment. Not as beautiful as you, Yuma said, looking at me. I blushed. This place was perfect, the lighting, the smells, and even down to the soft music playing in the background, which I recognized as Not and Angel by City Sleeps ... and plus I had him. At this moment there isn't anyone in the world I would rather be with. This tall, dark, and handsome man was more than I could hope for. I'm just waiting for someone to jump out at me and scream jokes on you. It's just too surreal for him to actually be interested in me. I smiled at him. You know, we really don't know that much about each other, I said, thinking that he knew some about me, but I knew nothing about him. He smiled. What do you want to know? He asked. Why don't you live with your parents? I asked. Oh, but you don't have to tell me if you don't want. In not trying to pry, I spazed. Oof, this boy's getting to me. I never spaz out like this. It's okay, don't freak, he laughed. Well, my family used to live not far from the high school in town, so I went to high school with your brother Bo and Ryan. Not long before I turned, my family decided to move away. By that time, Ryan had done changed and had told us that he could tell that we were all going to transform too. He said, holding my attention the whole time. I nodded, and he continued. I told my parents they could move, but I was staying here. They flipped out, but I had made it final that I wasn't going anywhere. So I made up some big story about how I had somewhere to stay and that I would be fine, and that's about it, he said, smiling. Where did you stay before us? I asked. Oh, I've had my fair share of friend hopping and staying at parks in the little tunnel things, you know, anywhere I could get a place, he shrugged. This made me feel like an awful person. I'll kill Alick, he had to know something about this and didn't offer for you to stay with us, I said sympathetically. Yuma laughed. He offered more than his fair share, Tala. I just have too much pride, he said. When he said my name, it sent shivers down my spine. Then why did you agree when I told you guys to stay? I asked, a bit confused. He looked me straight in the eye. You was all, he said intensely. Just then I noticed that his hand was on my hand and our faces were slowly getting closer. The weird this was, I wanted him to kiss me. I barely know this guy and I wanted him to kiss me. Our lips were a few centimeters away from each other's. Ciao, fratello. Hello, brother, I heard, and I jerked away so fast I got whiplash. Again. Ciao, Lorenzo. Hello, Lorenzo, Yuma said, standing up a bit flustered, as was I. Then it hit me that he had said brother. Brother, I asked, looking at Yuma. He smiled sheepishly. I looked at the guy. He looked a bit like Yuma, not a lot. He had a lot muscle on him, and he looked a bit older with short black hair. Who is this young Bella? He said, grabbing my hand and kissing it, making me blush. What? Just because I'm more into Yuma doesn't mean I can't. Think this guy is charming. I looked Yuma's way and he was glaring at his brother. I'm Tala, I said, smiling politely at him. I am Lorenzo, he said as I nodded at him. Yuma, why does your brother work here? I asked, eyeballing him. This is ... family's restaurant, he said, flinching like I was going to hit him. And you didn't tell me, I said. Lorenzo looked confused. She is here with you and you didn't tell her, he said. I didn't want her to feel uncomfortable with it, Yuma said, looking down. I looked at him and felt bad. Thanks for being so thoughtful, I said, hugging him. He blushed red and I let go. Well, why don't you lovebirds sit down and finish your meal then, Yuma? I'm forcing you to see Mama and Papa. They would love to meet this Bella you have with you, he said. Then I caught his scent. He of course smelt like Italian food, but then I smelt it. Werewolf. Duh. If Yuma's a werewolf, then so is his family. I smiled nervously and sat down in my seat once more. What would you guys like to drink? Lorenzo asked, smiling still. I'll just take some water, I smiled. Give me some Pepsi, Yuma said as Lorenzo wrote it down and walked off. Well, that was ... awkward, I said, looking down. Yeah, tell me about it. Sorry I didn't tell you, but I know you would freak out about every little detail of everything he said. I shrugged. You're right, I laughed. Do I really have to meet your parents? I asked, worried. He sighed. I'm afraid so. They can be a bit overbearing, but I think it's the Italian blood, he smiled. I laughed, looking at the menu. Yum, I saw chicken Alfredo. I sat the menu down and Yuma looked surprised. Took you only about 3 seconds, he laughed. I shrugged. The stomach wants what the stomach wants, I said. He just laughed again. Then Lorenzo showed up with our drinks and sat them down. Thanks, I mumbled. Ready to order, he asked. Yeah, I want the chicken Alfredo, I said, smiling at him. Lorenzo wrote it down quickly and looked at his brother. And you? He asked. Just give me some on Mama's lasagna, Yuma said. Okay, I'll be back in a minute with your food, he said, walking off with our orders. Oof, now I'm all nervous that your parents will hate me, I said, getting nervous. I know I'm not his girlfriend or anything, but still I've never really met anyone's parents before, and I didn't want to do something to offend them. Don't be, he soothed. I hadn't noticed he put his hand on mine again from across the table and was now rubbing soothing circles on it. I sighed. Okay, deep breaths, I said, breathing in and out. He just chuckled at me. Somebody's fallen in love. Oh great, it's my inner wolf come to annoy the flip out of me, and I can't have already. I barely know him. He's your mate, smart one. Look real close, he looks at you the same way your dad looked at your mom. No, it's just not possible. Plus look at him and look at me. No way would he be interested in me. Okay, telling yourself that. And with that she had gone somewhere into the corners of my mind. I snapped out of it and blushed. Sorry I zoned out like that, I said quietly. No problem, I was enjoying the view, he said, looking at me and still rubbing my hand. This made me blush even harder. Keep it PG-13 over there, I heard, and looked to see Lorenzo coming towards us with a tray in hand. I knew he had heard every word. Lorenzo reached up and sat our food down. Enjoy. Oh, and bro, congrats, he said, patting Yuma on the back. I looked at him confused, but Yuma just waved it off. We sat and ate, occasionally making small talk. I did learn that his favorite color is green. He is a total softie, and a goody two-shoes no matter how badass he seems. I had finished and was about to explode, so had Yuma, when all of a sudden Lorenzo showed up. "I'll take your plates, you guys go into the back room, Mama, Papa, and Lisa are back there, I'll be there as a sec," he said, taking the plates, and I looked at Yuma nervous. "There is nothing to worry about," he laughed at me. "Yeah, whatever, they could hate me, and then rip me limb from limb for even being seen out in public with their son," I stressed. He just laughed at me more, getting up. "Come on," he chuckled as I got up cautiously to follow him. I followed him through a door into a room that had a cozy atmosphere, almost like a home. Then my eyes dawned upon the most beautiful people. The women had chestnut brown hair done in pin-up girl-style curls, and her light brown eyes pulped under her perfectly done makeup. Her maroon-colored dress fit her perfectly, and she adorned a smile on her face. The man beside her looked very dashing in just a black t-shirt and jeans, his black longish hair slicked back. He had that same sneaking smirk Yuma had. He also had his arm around the women's shoulders. Sitting in a chair with nice posture was a pale-skinned girl with full pink lips and copper-toned hair. Her eyes were an ocean blue and seemed as deep. She was smiling politely towards us, surprise. The woman threw her arms around Yuma. "Figlio. Son, you're home," she said with a slight Italian accent. "Yeah, Mama, it's good to see you," Yuma said, laughing a bit. Then the women pulled back and looked at me in all my uncomfortable glory. "Who is this gorgeous young lady?" she said, her accent getting a tad thicker. Her and Yuma shared a glance. All of a sudden she jumped on me, hugging me to sorrow. "Darling," she screamed. Then she grabbed me by the shoulders and looked like she was examining me. "You speak Italian?" she asked me. I nodded. "Perfect. I'm Felice, Yuma's mama," she said happily. I smiled. "I'm Tala," I said. Then I saw her sniff. "Ah, so she is a lupo wolf," she said, smiling hugely. I nodded, smiling back. Then the man stepped up. "Sorry, my wife can be a bit overbearing at times. I'm Angelo, Yuma's papa," he said, sticking his hand out to shake. I shook his hand, and Yuma and him shared a glance and a smiled. Then the young girl stepped forward. "Hi, I'm Lisa, Lorenzo's mate," she smiled, hugging me. I smiled and hugged her back a bit awkwardly. Just then Lorenzo walked in. "Hey, honey," he said, lightly kissing her on the lips. Sighed dreamily. "I want someone like that who will just randomly kiss me, and even when I look absolutely horrible, tell me I'm beautiful." I turned to Yuma. "So any other surprise family members?" I asked him. He laughed, scratching his head. "Not that I know of," he said as I laughed. I took this moment to look at his parents. They are just like mine, where they have aged slowly. They didn't look a day over 23, 25 at the most. I guess I'm going to be like that. It's hard to tell how old Yuma's parents really are. "Well, come sit down," Felice said, motioning toward the couch. Yuma and I sat down on one, Lisa and Lorenzo sat down on the one beside us, and Felice and Angelo sat on the one across from us. "So Yuma, honey, have you got your own place yet?" his mother asked. He looked down a bit. "No, I'm staying with Tala and her brother," he said. Everyone raised their eyebrows at me. "We have tons on rooms, so everyone gets their own room," I said, slashing away their accusations. They gave each other an look. "So Tala, who are your parents? We may know them," Felice asked. I looked down for a second, and then felt Yuma grab my hand for support. "Victoria and Zachary Nuria. I doubt you know them, though they died when I was little," I said. "Oh, I'm so sorry," Felice said. Everyone had a sad look on their faces. I smiled. "It's not problem," I said. "So are you fluent in Italian?" Angelo asked, softening up to me a bit. I smiled wide. "Molto così. Ho preso alcune lezioni online." "Very much so. I took some online classes," I said, as fluently as possible. He grinned at me. "You speak great Italian. I may have to take you on a trip back home with us to show you off and prove to Mama Americans can learn Italian," Felice said, clapping her hands together. I nodded. "That sounds nice," I said, and noticed that Yuma was still holding my hand. I blushed a bit, and as if on cue, Yuma stood, leaving my hand feeling empty. "Well, Mama, we better get going," he said, giving her a hug. "Ti voglio bene, Mama, I love you, Mom," he said, and I could tell he had a very close relationship with his mother. Who wouldn't, though? She's so nice. I stood up behind him by Papa, Lorenzo, Lisa. He nodded at them one at a time. Felice scared me and hugged me. "Ti amo, fare attenzione, tenersi in contatto. I love you, be careful and keep in touch." She said, catching me off guard, and for the first time in forever I felt like I had known what a mother acts like. I smiled. "Anch'io ti amo, I love you too, I will," I said back, catching everyone off guard. "Bye everyone," I said, following everyone out the door and to the car. "Your family is great," I smiled. "Yeah, I know, everyone loves you, especially Mama," he said, grinning from ear to ear. I smiled. We got in the car and he smirked, ready for the park, he asked. I looked at him, surprised this late. I asked, "Why not? The park never closes," he shrugged. "Okay," I smiled as we took off. We listened to the radio in comfortable silence for the while, then I noticed we pulled into a local park around the house. We got out of the car and just looked around. He stuck his hand out to me. "Want to walk around?" he asked. I smiled and grabbed his hand. We started walking around. "So what's the deal with Ryan, Brazen, Dare, Alick and Bo mating with people that aren't werewolves? I thought that wasn't possible." I asked Yuma. "Yuma. It doesn't happen that often, but well, when a werewolf mates with a human, they age with their mate. When the two dar," he said, looking for a word, do the do. "The werewolf bites the nape of the mate's neck, turning them into a werewolf," Yuma said. I laughed at his do the do comment. "Shut up," he said, lightly punching me on the shoulder with his free hand. We walked for a little bit. "Wow, the moon is gorgeous tonight," I commented. He looked at me. "Just like you," he said. "Okay, these cheesy lines are working on me and it's really stupid, but I still got butterflies in my stomach," and blushed, then suddenly felt a bit angry. "Will you stop doing that?" I said firmly. "What?" he asked, looking a bit hurt. "Saying all these things that make me blush and giggle and have these butterflies. I have never had this happen to me in my life, and quiet, frankly, it's getting annoying," I yelled. He just stared at me with an expression I couldn't read. I was about to start up another round of ranting when all of a sudden warmth was on my lips. He kissed me. He really did. Our lips moving in motion with one another, he put his hand on my hips and I snaked my arms around his neck. I had never felt this much longing in my life. The kiss grew more passionate and our body got closer together. Suddenly we ran out of air. We pulled away, panting but still mushed together like one person. I've never wanted more than to pull him back and do it again, but right before I could do that or even say anything, my cell phone rang. Oh, Alick was going to get it when I got home. Werewolves don't exist ch.19. Yuma's POV. Everyone in the family loved her, which just made falling for her that much easier. Finally, we arrived at a local park I used to love to come to all the time. It felt special bringing her here, even though she had no idea how much it meant to me. We both got out of the car and just looked around, admiring the beauty of the trees and silence around us. "Want to walk around?" I asked her, holding out my hand, praying she wouldn't reject it. She smiled softly at me and took my hand, and we started to walk around randomly. "So what's the deal with Ryan, Brazen, Dare, Alick and Bo mating with people that aren't werewolves? I thought that wasn't possible," she asked me with a cute, confused look on her face. "It doesn't happen that often, but well, when a werewolf mates with a human, they age with their mate. When the two air," I struggled to find the appropriate word, do the do. "The werewolf bites the nape of the mate's neck, turning them into a werewolf." I finally finished the embarrassing thing. She giggled angelically at my comment. "Shut up," I joked, lightly punching her shoulder. We walked for a moment, her enjoying the view of nature and I enjoying the view of her. "Wow, the moon is gorgeous tonight," she said. "Just like you," I let slip out as she looked at me flustered. "Will you stop doing that?" She almost screamed. She smelled of frustration. That comment stung horribly. What I asked. "Saying all these things that make me blush and giggle and have these butterflies. I have never had this happen to me in my life, and quiet, frankly, it's getting annoying," she yelled. My body relaxed at the fact that she had a feeling similar to mine. I looked at her and her silky raven black hair and crystal blue eyes. She looked like she was going to start her ranting again, but I let instinct take over, and in a second our lips were moving in motion with each other's and sparks flew. The kiss grew more passionate with every passing second and our bodies become one, but no matter how bad I didn't want to stop, we ran out of air and pulled apart, but our bodies still mashed together. But before I could tell her anything or even kiss her again, her cell phone rang and I heard a frustrated growl from low in her throat, which just made her all the more sexy. She sighed and pulled away from me, making me feel cold and lonely. I gave her a pouting puppy dog face and she giggled, answering her phone. I heard Alick on the other end. "Hello," Tala said in a sickly sweet voice. "Where the hell are you?" I heard Alick on the other end. Only then did I realize it must be really late. Tala glanced at me nervously, then her face went stoic. I decided to take a walk around the park, she said, using her authority to her advantage, which I could tell she hated, but Alick bugged her more. Well, you should have called, he said, hearing the tone of his sister's voice. Sorry, I lost track of time. The sky is beautiful tonight, she said, looking me in the eyes. Right then and there I decided that as soon as she got off the phone I was going to ask her to be my girlfriend. I'm going to do this normal, not like most wolves, and just skip straight to the mating. This made me nervous, and I watched as she flared her nose and gave me a weird look. I knew she could smell my nervousness and determination, but her conversation with her brother continued. Yeah, it is, but please be careful. You know what happened last time, he warned, protective but loving. Yeah, I am a werewolf, remember, she said, rolling her eyes. Tala, you've only changed once, he said gravely. Yeah, we need to practice that sometime. Be home soon, love. Yeah, she said, rushing the conversation. I heard him sigh. You and Yuma get home soon. Love you, bye, he said, hanging up as I heard Tala cuss under her breath. Well, I guess the cat's out of the bag now, she laughed, sending a shiver down my spine. Okay, Yuma, you can do this. Tala, I asked Ashim, she said, looking at the trees with an almost longing, almost like she was homesick. I felt the same way sometimes, like I belonged in the woods as a wolf instead of being here as a human. I don't know how to explain, I stuttered, and she cut me off. The pull we feel toward each other, this feeling of loneliness when we are apart. This weird ability to tell what each other's feeling are and what we are thinking, she said, taking the words right out of my mouth. I realized I had been staring like an idiot. Yeah, and I can't believe I'm going to ask this. I sucked up my nervousness. I'm almost positive that you're my mate, and but only if you want to. I was wondering if possibly you wanted to be my girlfriend, I asked quickly. I prayed I had made the right decision. I am honestly, for the first time ever, afraid of rejection. Tala's POV. My mind rapidly turned over what he had just said and asked. My heart fluttered. Is it stupid to say I want to say yes even though I barely know him? It feels like I've known him forever, though. I mean, you don't. Yuma's adorable stuttering broke me out of my rapid thoughts. Oh God, he thinks I don't like him. Out of nowhere, I grabbed his short and pulled him toward me and said the cheesiest thing ever, kiss me, wolf boy. It seemed to work on him, though, because he roughly pulled me to him and our lips met once more. To take my wolf comment even farther, he growled into the kiss, and oddly, just one little growl could make me want him even more if that was possible. We finally pulled apart. Is that a yes? He asked, smirking and raising an eyebrow cockily and his voice husky. I rolled my eyes. Duha, I replied. He grinned, spread from ear to ear. Kiss me, wolf girl, he mocked me, attacking my lips once again. I growled into it like he had, and I heard him mumble sexy into the kiss. I giggled a bit and pulled back. We better get going home before Alick sends everyone after us, I said, earning another pout from him. You're a big baby, I said. That might be true, but I'm still your big baby, he said cutely. Tush, darling, tush, I said, playfully glaring at him. But it felt great to call him mine. Inside me, my wolf was going crazy with howling. He laughed and grabbed my hand, which made my heart speed up about 5 million times faster. We walked taut a car and split. As he went taut the driver's side, I felt cold and incomplete without him there. I went around to the other side of the vehicle and quickly got in, as did Yuma, and as soon as he started the car, he grabbed empty hand. It was amazing that just a small gesture could send this many sparks through my body. What was also weird was the fact that we could sense each other's feelings, and when we touched, it seems to intensify 10 times. I felt love, but also a bit of caution. Yuma, you don't have to be so careful with me, I said, laughing a bit. It's just that I don't want to do or say something to screw it up, he said, driving around a curve. I smiled. Just be yourself, it's what makes you, I said truthfully. He grinned. I guess you're right, he said, rubbing soothing circle on the top of my hand. He seemed more nervous as we grew closer to home. Don't worry, I won't let Alick get you, I said, trying to calm him down, but in reality I was just as nervous. We pulled into the driveway and automatically heard Chaman's bark. We got out and walked back to each other, holding hands. I took a deep breath, ready to give them a surprise. I grinned. Kiss for good luck, Yuma asked, wiggling an eyebrow. I pecked him on the lips really quick after rolling my eyes. Let's go, he grinned, taking my hand, obviously happy with getting his way. Wow, someone's bipolar, and second ago he was scared to look me in the eye, and now he's asking for kisses. I like it, D. We walked in the door, still hand in hand, and I saw Alick looking at us in shock. Yuma and I looked innocently around. Alick just sighed about damn time Yuma. What the Food Network did he just say? I was expecting a epic battle or something, but he knew. Oh, this douchebag is going to get it, but only when he least expects it. MWHAHAA Sheesh. Werewolves don't exist. Ch.20 Tala's POV. I looked at Alick like he had just told me he was a girl. I felt Yuma's grip on my hand tighten. What the hell do you mean? Finally he said through gritted teeth. Yes, please explain, I said, venom clear in my voice. Oh, come on, anyone can see Yuma's crazy about you, he said, almost looking like he was going to cry. I didn't know what to say. I was pissed but touched at the same time. You really could have told me you knew, so I wouldn't have to worry about you killing me, Yuma said, trying to lighten the mood. I smiled and sighed. Where is everyone? I asked, changing the subject. Brazen and DeRay went home. They said they had something they needed to do. Bo and Ryan are out scouting and won't be back till really late, and everyone else is up in Adam's room, Alick said, looking a car magazine. I'm gonna go talk to Adam, I said. I'm gonna go shower, Yuma said quickly. I could still tell he was uncomfortable around Alick. I laughed a bit, and we both went up the stairs, still hand in hand. It seemed we were almost inseparable. Well, at least until we got to the top of the stairs. I'll come tell you when I'm out, he said, slowly letting go of my hand. Then he lightly kissed me and walked off to the bathroom. I stood there for a second, wondering how the heck did my feelings get so strong for Yuma so fast. I sighed blissfully and walked to Adam's room. I knocked. Who's there? I heard Adam's usually sing-songy voice say. It's me, I said happily. It's Sissy Tala, I heard Connor scream. Then I heard the thump and the clumsy walking of a 4-year-old. I laughed and the door flew open. Sissy Tala, Connor screamed, hugging my leg, then he motioned for me to pick him up. I graciously complied and swung him up quickly. I missed you, he said, hugging me and nuzzling into my neck. I missed you too, I said, hugging him back. I looked toward the bed to see Adam and Anne smiling at us, and a little to the right in a desk chair sat Bree. After Connor was done hugging me, I smiled at them and sat down on the floor with Connor in my lap. Adam looked at me and grinned. You reek of Yuma, and you look like the happiest girl in the world. Tell us everything, he squealed. I looked at him in surprise. Ability of mine, he shrugged. Now tell us. I looked at Anne and Bree. They seemed extremely interested. I sighed. Should have known it would show. Well, Yuma and I had made plans for a date after work. I started but was interrupted by an over-dramatic Anne. You had a date with Yuma and didn't tell us, she said, dramatically faking hurt. I heard Adam and Bree grunt in agreement. Guys, do you want to know what happened or not? I glared. Connor was looking at me intently, but I knew he barely knew what I was talking about. They didn't say anything, so I went on. After work we went to this little Italian restaurant, and it turns out it was his family's. So I met his brother, Mom, and Dad, I explained, remembering the welcoming family. Brother Adam said, wiggling an eyebrow. Sorry, he already had a woman. I smiled. Oh well, I tried, I sighed playfully. Anyway, after all that, we left and went to a park. The moon was gorgeous, so we walked around. To make a long story short, I threw a bitch fit, and he kissed me, I said, feeling warm and tingly all over again. What? Adam, Anne, and Bree screamed in unison. He kissed me. But then Alick called and interrupted us. I frowned, but that was okay because after I got off the phone he asked me to be his girlfriend. I squealed like the love-struck schoolgirls on the movies. Bree was the first to lunge at me. You did say yes, didn't you? I watched that boy lay beside you and waste away for almost a week. She freaked. She cared so much about people. Alick could defiantly use someone like her to straighten him out. I laughed at her. Of course I said yes. I squealed again as Bree tackled me into a hug. After she regained her composure, Anne spoke up. Are you in love with him? She asked. Am I? I'm not sure, I sighed. Well, let's test it, Adam said. Tell us what you like about him, he said. Oh God, you guys, I love everything. The way his chocolate brown eyes light up when he speaks, the way his hair lays perfectly in place, the way he smells like the forest after rainfall, the way he uses cheesy lines at the perfect time. I love it all. I trailed off into my own little world. You're whipped. Anne laughed at me. I glared and was about to say something about Bo when Connor caught me before I could sissy Tala. Can I go play the PlayStation? He asked, looking adorable as usual. I smiled at him. Yeah, just go tell Alick, okay. Time for bed soon, though, I said as he nodded and ran out screaming at Alick. I laughed and jumped to the spot on the edge of the bed that looked abandoned. So guys, how about you tell me your abilities? I asked, super nice. Bree was the first to speak up. You know mine. I only have the mind-reading ability, she said. Mine, my dear lycanthrope, are I have an incredible sense of smell, and also I'm a shape-shifter, he smiled proudly. By shapeshifter you mean, I said, asking him to explain further. I can change into anything or anyone I want, she said. Oh really, I said, looking at him skeptically. He's always been a jokester. He sighed fine, then he closed his eyes in concentration. Before I knew it, I saw an exact copy of myself sitting on the bed with me. I was dumbfounded. Then why couldn't you just change, get out of the god-awful place by turning into a random person, I asked. He or she or me, I mean ... you whatever. Adam turned back to normal just as easily as he changed into a copy of me. They had these weird devices that kept us from using our abilities, he said. I smiled. At least I know you can shift into a wolf and help out sometimes. I laughed with pleasure. He grinned. So Anne is your only power, healing? Which is awesome, by the way, and I can never thank you enough for saving my life. I said, yep. And you waking up was all the thanks I'll ever need, she smiled. What's Connor's abilities? Then I asked because I hadn't really noticed anything out of the ordinary with him. We aren't completely sure yet because he's so young, Bree said, but we do know that one of his abilities is he can look at someone and tell if they are a good person or not. Anne filled in the rest. I smiled. They are all so unique, and I have the chance to know them all. Oh, I almost forgot. What did you want to talk about? I asked Adam. Oh yeah, I almost forgot because your news was so flipping amazing, he said, always happy as usual. I met someone, he said happily. You mean boyfriend material? I said, happy for him. OMG, yes, he's gorgeous and gay. Only one little problem, he said, frowning a bit. What? I panicked. I think he's a werewolf. He has the same pleasant but wild scent as you and the others have, he said, looking a bit worried. I huffed. What's his name? I want to meet this guy and see, I said. His name is Abel Imanol. I'll defiantly set up a date, Adam said. I was about to tell him he better, but there was a small knock on the door, then it cracked to reveal Yuma. He opened the door and stood there as all his yummy-looking glory with his short and a plain white t-shirt and soaking wet hair. Yep, ladies, that's mine. I lit up like a Christmas tree as he walked in. Just came to tell you I'm out of the shower, and I'm going to bed, he smiled at me, taking my breath away. I'm going to put Connor to bed, then I'm heading that way too, I said, and as if on impulse he reached down and softly kissed me. See you in the morning, he smiled and walked out the door. Girl, you did good with his nice ass, Adam said. Thanks for checking out my boyfriend, I said, rolling my eyes. I'm gonna put Connor to bed. Good night, guys, I said, walking downstairs to see Connor playing the game and Alick sitting there still looking bored at a magazine. Come on, Connor, time for bed, I said as he sat the controller down and ran straight over to me. He's such a good kid for his age. I'm going to have to just take him out one day to someplace special and let him be a normal kid for a while. Tell everyone I said good night. Love you, I told Alick as I climbed the stairs with Connor. Love you too, I heard him say. I tucked Connor in and we exchanged I love yous and I went to my own room. I changed into PJs and jumped into the comfort of my bed. Right before I fell asleep, I realized that I may be a wolf, but I'm the happiest I have been in years. I sighed and drifted off peacefully. Dream. I slowly looked around me, but all there was to see was white. What the hell? All of a sudden there was a flash. Whoa, honey, did you see that shit? I heard a familiar shout. I turned to see my dad grinning. Let's not tell your mother about me saying the S-word, okay, pumpkin. She would probably smack me in the head. He grinned like a little kid that broke something. I nodded in amazement. What are you doing here? I asked. It's the funniest thing. "We just found out we can communicate in dreams, and I guess it can only be one person," he chuckled nervously while also looking around just to be careful Mom hadn't somehow come in late and was going to hit him. "Oh, they find this out now _" "But anyway, I came to warn you," he said, getting serious. "Warn me?" I asked. He nodded. "Your mother would be better at this. You're in danger," he said. From what I asked, wondering what in the world would want to hurt us. "All I can tell you is just because you beat a level of the game doesn't mean you beat the boss," he said, trying to be the old wise one. "Dad, the whole old and wise thing doesn't work if you only look a couple of years older than your daughter," I said. "Blah, blah, blah." "Fine, if you want to play it that way, then let's talk about this boy," he said smugly. What boy?" I said, playing dumb. "Don't go there. I'm not stupid," he sighed. "He's amazing, Dad," I said. He laughed. "I know, just wanted to put you in the hot spot. But seriously, if he does anything to hurt you, he will pay. Just because I'm dead doesn't mean I don't have my ways," he warned, and for the first time he actually looked the part of a wolf. "I know, Dad," I said, rolling my eyes. All of a sudden the pale white floor shook, but only for a second. "Oh, looks like it's time to wake up. Come give me a hug, pumpkin," he said, reaching his arms toward me. I ran over and hugged him. "I love you, Dad," I said, muffled into his chest. "I love you too. Don't forget my warning, always be prepared," he said, and let go. Just as quick as he came, he was gone, and everything started to come into view. P-shesh. Werewolves don't exist. Ch.21. Bo's POV. I felt my bones bend back into the upright position and the familiar sensation of fur retracting all over my body. I love the feeling I get after a good run in the forest. I looked beside me to see Ryan changes back to normal. "Find anything?" he asked. "Nope," I said, popping the pea. He nodded in agreement as we walked into the house to see Alick looking very distraught. "What? Just because I don't act smart doesn't mean I don't know any big words." "What's wrong?" Ryan asked as I glanced at the clock, seeing it was 11:45 p.m. "It's Tala," he sighed. "Oh God, she did come home, right?" I panicked. He nodded. "Yeah, she's in bed," he said. I breathed a sigh of relief. "Then what's wrong?" Ryan asked for the second time. "Yuma finally told her," he said with a bittersweet tone. "About dang time," I said, extremely happy that Yuma finally had a great girl to tie him down. Alick gave me a glare. "I'm losing her," he said. "No, you're not. She is alpha and we are a pack, so technically we will always be together," Ryan said, always taking things literally. "Not like that. I mean, things will never be like they used to be," he sighed as it seemed like you could see the memories flash in his eyes. Then there was silence. It was true, it would never be just him and Tala again. "I'm just going to bed," he said, looking like the energy had been sucked out of him. "Okay. I'm going to break everything while you're asleep," I said gleefully. Alick knew I would, and truth be told, I probably would. He smiled. "I'll let Tala handle it in the morning," Alick said with an evil glint in his eye. I felt the color drain from my face. Alick had told us stories all through high school of Tala's famous temper. He always told us if she's not happy, no one is. "No thanks," I gulped. "That's what I thought," he chuckled. Oh God, I dodged a bullet there. Oh snap, the day after tomorrow is Alick's birthday. MWHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHh But first I must get my beauty rest. You can't spell beauty without Bo. Off the bed. Tala's POV. What a weird-ass dream. I sat up and yawned, looking over at my clock. It's 7:30 a.m. You know what? Today is a great day to apply for college. You really didn't think I wasn't going to college, did you? TSK, crazy people. I grabbed my laptop out from under my bed, but decided to first look decent. I quickly did my morning routine. Bathroom, take a shower and shave, brush teeth, fix hair, and put on makeup. Walking out of the bathroom, I was about to get some clothes because at this moment all I had covering myself was a Harry Potter towel. "Oh, hello sexy," I heard a husky voice say. I jumped around to only see Yuma sitting there. I relaxed a little. I raised an eyebrow at him. "Harry Potter turns you on?" I asked, motioning towards the towel on my body. He rolled his eyes, walking up to me. "Oh yeah, that Ron Weasley is yummy," he said, hugging me tightly to his chest. Remind me not to take you to watch the new movie with me, I said. Fine, then I thought we could go watch it later this week, but never mind now, he said, smiling sheepishly, knowing he had me. I jumped on him, hugging him, momentarily forgetting the towel wrapped securely around my chest. No, I was just joking. Please no, I begged. He gave me a face that looked like he was thinking one condition. He smirked anything I blurted, not thinking of the consequences. Just some hot wizard guys I was going to see on a huge screen. Give me a kiss, he said. Psh, that's easy, I said, planning on giving him just a peck, but as soon as our lips met, the passion spreads like fire, and he pulled my body as close to his as it would go. His tongue asked for entrance, and that's when I pulled away. I saw his hurt expression. At least let me get dressed, I smirked. He crossed his arms like a little kid pouting fine, but we finished this later. He winked and walked over, sitting on my bed. I giggled, grabbed some clothes, and ran back into the bathroom. I pulled on an avenged sevenfold shirt, a pair of washed-out skinny jeans, and some socks that said "I love you" this much all on them. I walked out of the bathroom to see Yuma looking around aimlessly, still in the same spot I left him in. I ran and jumped on my bed and quickly grabbed my laptop and turning it on. Yuma pushed himself up to be sitting beside me. "What you doing?" he asked cutely. "I'm going to apply for colleges," I said, letting the computer load. "Isham, I never even thought of college," he said. "You really should. Wouldn't it be great if we went to the same college?" I said, happily logging onto a website to a college I had been looking at. "That would be great." He smiled, a heart-melting smile. I applied to about 5 colleges, but it took about 3 hours since Yuma was always distracting me. He would either keep me laughing or start kissing my neck. Would not help at all. He'll be the death of me yet. "Yuma, Tala, come eat," I heard my brother yell. "What? You didn't think I was the only one that could cook, did you?" "I'm starved," I said as both Yuma and I jumped up. I quickly jumped on his back, causing him to automatically make sure I didn't fall. "On the kitchen slave," I yelled, pointing down the stairs. "As you wish," he said, walking down the stairs. I jumped off his back, seeing my brother in the kitchen. "Guess what, bro?" I asked excitedly. He looked at me suspiciously. "What?" "I applied to 5 colleges today," I smiled hugely. He smiled from ear to ear. "That's awesome. Do you know when you'll get your letters to tell you if you're accepted or not?" he asked. "Probably in a couple of months," I smiled. In a second, Alick was in front of me and giving me a hug. "This is great. I didn't get to go to college, but you can," he said. I sighed. "You still can. We'll talk about it later. Let's go eat," he said. I heard footsteps and all of a sudden everyone was downstairs ready to eat, even DeRay and Brazen, who I have no idea when they got here. The table was just big enough to fit everyone, so after everyone sat down and was eating, the fun began. "Congrats, Yuma. Can't believe you got the courage to tell her," Bo said. Yuma just nodded and smiled in embarrassment. The congrats just kept coming. "By the way this sounded, you would think we got married _" I then remembered Dad's warning. "Guys, I want to learn to fight," I said randomly. What Alick said like I was crazy. "With my wolf, I mean, I might be able to fight in my human form, but I barely know how to control my wolf," I explained. I saw Ryan nod in understanding. "So who's going to help me train?" I asked. "Well, I'm the fastest, Ryan's the smartest, Alick's great at everything. But if you're looking for strength and defense, the best is Yuma," Bo said, winking. I looked at Yuma in surprise. "Want to start after we eat?" I asked him. He smirked. "Just because you're my girlfriend doesn't mean I'm going easy on you." I patted his head. "Wouldn't have it any other way," I winked. After eating, Dan and Anne said they would keep an eye on Connor in the house. Bree decided she wanted to see despite everyone's warning, so we all went outside. "Okay, everyone except Tala step back," Yuma said, getting serious, and everyone backed off. "Tala, I need you to change," he said as I nodded and closed my eyes, concentrating on becoming a wolf. All of a sudden, I felt my bones start to distort and I fell on all 4s. Then the odd feeling of fur coming from everywhere on my body. When I opened my eyes again, I saw everyone smirking. "Now I want you to run at me," Yuma said. Is he crazy? He's still human. I could really hurt him. I laid down and whimpered. Yuma looked at me disapprovingly. "Do you want to learn?" he said sternly. Oh God, I really don't want to hurt him, but of well. I got up and narrowed my instinct, honing in on him, and I charged. Right before I got to him, it was like he disappeared, and next thing I know, I'm on the ground with a black wolf on me. Lesson 1. Changing in mere seconds, I heard in my head. Change back, I heard again as he got off me. I quickly sat up feeling a bit defeated, but thought of being human, and soon enough I was human again, sitting on the ground. Everything was silent. Okay, you see what I did there? It took me about 1.5 seconds to change. Those seconds could be the difference between life and death. Yuma said he oddly was like a real teacher. Now you try, Yuma said, and in a second he was a wolf again. I controlled my breathing and nodded to him. Next thing I knew, he was running at me full force, and I just thought of my wolf once and I was a wolf. Hey, my turn to tackle him down. I quickly jumped and jerked my body, landing right on top of him. You learn fast, I heard his voice. Always have I boasted. Now we are going to see how good at combat you are. I heard a bit of a smirk form him. But I started. To the others, it probably just looked like we were staring at each other. No buts. To train you, I have to see where you're at. Fine, then I really dread this. All of a sudden, Yuma was about 10 feet away from me. Then he started growling at me, letting some of his animal instinct take over. I paused and looked around. Everyone was shocked, probably thinking we were really fighting. I took a deep breath and let some of the animal take over me. I felt myself start to growl, and the fur on my back stood on end. Yuma rushed at me, and just before he got to me, I jumped over him and rushed back, knocking him to the ground. Before I had time to take another breath, he kicked me right in the stomach and sent me flying. I quickly jumped up and ran towards him and head-butted him in the side. He fell to the ground as I took a breather. I lifted my head and then I hit the ground. Hard. I opened my eyes to see Yuma standing over me while I was on my back. You know, I kinda like this potion, I heard. I growled at him playfully. I'm turning back, I sent to him. He stepped back and I concentrated, and I was myself again in 1 second. Are you okay? I heard Bree yell. I laughed. Yeah, that was actually fun, I said, exhilarated. That's enough for today, Yuma said, putting out a hand to help me up. I took his hand and Bo ran up to me. We are going to throw your brother a party tomorrow, and we are telling the girls, Bo said, jumping up and down. Ever DeRay, Brazen, and Ryan's girls? I asked, a little apprehensive. Bo nodded. Since they are so sure they are their mates, what choice do we have? Bo said. I nodded. Tomorrow was going to be very interesting. Werewolves don't exist. ch.22. Bo's POV. Today is the day. It's not only Alick's birthday, but it's the day I get to tell Anne Boleyn that she's my mate. I just really hope she takes it okay. Poor DeRay, Brazen, and Ryan have to tell the girls that they are werewolves also. I felt my insides churn. Alick was out on early morning patrol, and the rest of us had cleared out a room that no one had any idea was there except Alick and Tala. Once we cleared it out, it almost looked like a ballroom you see in one of those fancy movies. Tala told us that this house was extremely old, and that the previous owners, her grandparents, used to hold elegant parties in here, and that's why they never redone it and made it modern. I took a look around at everyone working. Yuma was holding Tala up so she could put up decorations, Ryan was setting up the stereo, Adam was keeping Connor busy, and Anne Boleyn and Bree were cooking in the kitchen. I smiled. Hey Bo, Yuma and I are going to get Alick's gifts, okay, Tala said. Be back in 5 minutes, don't think, I don't know what you're doing, I said, grinning. Tala's featured scrunched up. Bo, don't even go there, she said as they walked upstairs. After they left, Adam came up to me with Connor following behind him. There's something about that kid that's different, and it's not just the powers. Should I call Brazen and DeRay and tell the two come over with their chicks, he asked. I grinned, yeah. One more thing, can I invite someone, he asked. I thought for a second. I'm sure Tala wouldn't mind, just make sure they don't come till after we tell the girls, I said, being serious for once in my life. Nothing was going to screw this up for me. He nodded and walked away to go call Everynay. Just then Anne Boleyn walked in bringing food. She was breathtakingly beautiful. She caught me staring at her after she sat the food on the table. What, she giggled. I snapped out of it. Nothing. I blushed a bit, snapping my head to the door when I heard a laugh and Tala and Yuma came in. Yuma had a huge box with him and Tala was carrying something like a card. Anne Boleyn had went back into the kitchen. Smells good in there, Tala said as Yuma and her sat the presents down. I know, Yuma said, looking at Tala lovingly. They were a great couple. I smiled. So who's going to tell the girls? I vote for Alpha, I said, grinning. She looked at me wide-eyed. No way. He is kinda right, you should at least get it started, Yuma said apologetically. Traitor, she muttered, then sighed. Fine. Thanks you, I said, hugging her. After I let go, she looked to the door. The boys are here with their honeys plus Ryans, she said, walking to the door and opening it. Hey guys, she smiled. Hey, they said as Tala stepped aside and let them in. Cake's done, Bree screamed as we walked into the kitchen. The cake looked like a realistic-looking guitar. How did you learn to do this? Tala asked in amazement. Bree shrugged, then all of a sudden Tala looked towards the door again. He's coming, she squealed. How does she know this before everyone else? Oh well, I guess that's why she's the alpha. Tala quickly stuck a sign on the door that said, "Come to old ballroom," as everyone grabbed some food and the cake and went to the ballroom. Everyone hid as I did behind a chair. I saw Anberlin looking around trying to find a spot, so I quickly grabbed her and pulled her behind the chair with me, and I heard her gasp. What are you doing? She asked with a laugh. Giving you a spot to hide, duh, I said. She smiled at me. Well, thanks, she blushed. All of a sudden I'm home. ... guys. ... The ballroom, I heard Alick saying as everyone held deathly still, and we heard his footsteps coming. I looked over at Tala and she held her fingers up saying 3.2.1. The light flipped on. Everyone jumped up surprised. The look on his face was priceless. Tala's POV. The look on his face was priceless. He finally straightened up and laughed. Wow guys, he said. I ran up to him and gave him a hug. Happy birthday, Bubby, I said, calling him what I used to when I was littler. Thanks so much, he said. Before I let go, I pulled his ear down to my mouth. We are telling them, I said. He jerked back wide-eyed when I glared at him and he shut up. I looked toward everyone. Before we get Alick's party started, I have some things to announce. I would like all of the girls to sit down, I said as the girls looked in confusion. Just the Connor ran up to me and reached his arms out. Up, he said, and I smiled, picking him up. So what's this about? Anne asked. Well, first I have some explaining to do to Mickey, Erica, and Haley, I said as they looked at me curious. I took a deep breath. You guys try to keep an open mind, I said. You may not believe me when I tell you this, but most of us in this room are. I paused, getting nervous. You're what? Mickey said. I could already tell she was going to be a handful. She has a huge mouth and a blunt personality. I sighed. We're werewolves, I spat out. Everything was silent for a minute. Then they all three burst out laughing, just like I had. That's scientifically impossible, Haley laughed. After a second I sighed. Are you done? They looked at me blankly. Want proof? I asked, a bit bitchy. You're insane, Mickey said, a bit horrified. I sighed again and put Connor down and thought of my long, sleek-looking black wolf and felt empty bones bend and twist. I'll never get used to that feeling. Before I knew it, I was a wolf. The girls stared speechless as Connor ran up and hugged my neck. Sissy Tala's a doggy, he giggled. I rubbed my head against him as he laughed. God, I love kids. It's not possible, Haley said, and I walked up to her and she flinched back. I have to say that hurt ... a lot. I felt a hand on my fur and I looked to see Mickey petting me and I licked her hand. She just a big puppy. She squealed. Erica reached out and pet me also. I love wolves, she said as I barked. I backed up and thought of being human again, and there I stood in front of them just like before. So who's all werewolves? Mickey asked like this was the weather we were talking about. I looked at her like she was insane but answered her question anyways. Me, Alick, Ryan, Bo, Yuma, DeRay, and Brazen, I said, pointing, because they hadn't been introduced to some of them yet. Then why are you telling us this? Why not any of the other guys? Erica asked. I could tell she was very observative. I grinned. I'm the alpha of the pack, I said, and Erica looked at me wide-eyed. A female alpha. Interesting, she said. I could also tell she knew a lot about wolves. Haley was still in shock. What does this have to do with us? Anne asked, motioning to her Bree. I sighed. There is another part to all of this. Yuma, come here, I said as Yuma came and stood beside me. Out of instinct, I wrapped empty arm around his waist, and he gladly did the same. As most of you know, Yuma is my mate, I said. Anne's was interrupted. My Mickey, you mean like soulmates? She asked, fascinated. Almost, but this is a lot stronger and you'll be together no matter what ... most of the time. But anyways, you girls are all here because you each are one of the guys' mates, I said. I heard gasps and little giggle that I recognized as Anne's. Who Haley finally spoke up. Here's where I let the guys speak up, I said. You did great, Yuma said, thanks. I pecked him on the lips. I heard a few awes from the girls and be a gagging noise from my brother. I looked pointedly at him. Want to go first, birthday boy? I asked. He grumbled something along the lines of evil and came beside me. I smirked and he twiddled around with his thumbs. Well, my mate ties, he stuttered. I elbowed him. Bree, he spit out. Bree's mouth hung open and Anne grinned. Oh, thanks God. She's practically in love with the boy. She yelled. Really, Alick said, astonished. Bree turned extremely red and nodded. Well, get over there, then I told her, and she shyly crossed over to stand beside my brother. Amberlynn, you're next. Who do you think? I asked her. Well, I hope it's Bo, she said boldly. She guessed it, Bo yelled. Anne skipped over and hugged him. That went surprisingly well, I said, and Yuma nodded. Okay, Brazen, my darling, you want to go next? I asked. He just grinned sure and walked up. I saw Mickey hold her. Breathe, my mate is Mickey, he said, like it was something you said every day. Yay, she squealed, but then blushed. What? He's the hot one, she said, walking over to him. I laughed. The final two, I grinned. I saw Haley close her eyes and I assumed it was for a certain guy. Ryan, come tell us which is the lucky lady, I ginned evilly. Well, my mate is Haley, but I mean ... he rambled. I looked at her face and saw delight, but only for a second. At least I got the smart one, she mumbled, but I knew she was pretty happy even though she would never admit it. So that leaves me and you, DeRay said, trying to use his so-called charm on Erica. She stood up and DeRay grabbed her into a hug. She looked scared for her life. Yep, she's my favorite. I burst out laughing and everyone looked at me like I had just gone nuts. DeRay's already scaring her off, I said in between laughs. He frowned at me. Don't worry, Yuma's gonna run for the hills when he sees your real personality, DeRay snapped back. I was about to go ape shit on his ass, but then Ryan cleared his throat. Tala, would you please explain the conditions on mating to the girls, he asked, but his eyes pleaded with me not to fight. Oh, Ryan, always a mediator. I sighed and gave a glare at DeRay. Now girls, don't feel forced into this. The boys are automatically crazy about you, but you don't have to be anything to them. But I implore you to get to know the boys before you decide. They all have their good sides, even if most of the time they act like a jerk face. I said the last part, glaring at DeRay again and earning a few laughs. If you aren't interested in trying to get to know your mate, then please leave. I have no room for dead weight. Oh, and if you tell anyone we are werewolves, well, let's just say it won't be good for your health. I grinned murderously. Whether it was genuine interest or just scared to go, no one left. I grinned. Let's go party, I said. Presents first, Alick screamed. He's just like a little kid. I laughed. I grinned as I picked Connor up and Yuma and I went over to the presents table. The big box is from me and the card is from Yuma, and I smiled. Alick is an avid guitar player, hence the cake. So when I saw a gorgeous acoustic guitar in a music shop window, I knew it was perfect for Alick. He grabbed the box that had the guitar in it and looked at me suspiciously. He ripped off the paper and opened the box. He gasped. Tala, this is amazing, he said, pulling it out and running his fingers over the strings. I grinned. Happy birthday, I said. Now open the card, I urged. He hesitantly sat the guitar down and opened the card. He glazed at me and I grinned. The reason for the grin? Yesterday, while I was applying for colleges, Yuma and I decided to get Alick 2 tickets to see a local Avenged Sevenfold concert, and those tickets are in the card. Alick opened the card and read the tickets over and his eyes got big as quarters. But Tala, you love these guys. I could take you with me, he offered. I shook my head. Yuma, and I have something planned that night. Take someone special, I winked at him. He nodded with the same goofy grin Dad had. We finished opening gifts, which was some unmentionable but funny things from the other guys. We were about to go eat when I heard some steps outside. I froze. Someone's here, I said with confusion. I saw Adam's smile. Must be Abel, he said. You mean the potential werewolf, I asked. He just nodded and went to the door. A minute later he came back with a skinny but stoic-looking blonde boy. I took a sniff of the air. Oh yeah, he's defiantly a werewolf and there's something threatening about him and I don't like him at all. Unknown POV. N. My plan is in action and he's there right now. I will have what belongs to me and my revenge. I will put the real part of my plan into action in a few weeks, giving some time for my influence to set in. Tala will be mine.